This interview is the last one with audio issues, I promise. This interview is a bit unique because there are specific people behind all departments of the game, from art, music, writing, production. And when you hear how creative and passionate the people are who are handling all these things, it will surely spark your interest in the game. So again, sorry in advance for my audio issues. This one was actually the worst of the bunch. So I re-recorded a lot of it, so it shouldn't be too hard to listen to, hopefully. Again, sorry in advance. This is Emily with Pixel Breakdown, and today I have some of the developers from Stellar Forge. Next, do you want to start off with an introduction and we can have everyone go around and maybe you can give some more info as to what your game is?
Sure, I can start. Hi there, I go by Nex. I'm 34, I'm from Portugal, and I'm the director and programmer of Whispering Memories. Who's next?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, I am Secret Silver Lining, also just Silver's fine. I am the creative director, Stellar Forge, and yeah, I make stories.
And my name is Lourenço. I'm 22. I'm from Portugal, and I'm the lead composer of Stellar Forge.
And does someone want to give a brief introduction as to what the game Whispering Memories is about?
Yeah, so we're working on Whispering Memories. It's a psychological thriller. It's a visual novel where we want the choices to matter. And yeah, we can talk more about it as we go. We have a lot of info, but that's pretty much it.
Sounds good.
And something interesting, I was told at the start that this is y'all's first time all being in a meeting together.
It's true. It's true. We never had a team with a whole team.
That's really surprising. I mean, your game looks really polished and well put together. I guess that just shows the power of the internet, bringing teams from all over the world together.
Yeah,
when we are all aligned, I think we can make it even without, meeting.
So I want to start with some general studio questions. Is there an origin story for Stellar Forge? How did the studio come to be?
I guess I'm to blame here. I play games since forever and was always invested in keeping up with the industry. I mean, what studios did what, with what engine and why and stuff like that. So eventually, with the support of the game dev community, I took the first steps into doing my own work. I have a couple solo experiences, but I wanted a taste of building something together with a team of talented people. So I did what any sane person does. I went to the internet to ask the help from strangers.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
It worked out. It worked out. So Stellar Forge was born, and I couldn't be happier with the outcome. I don't know if they want to share a bit on how and why they joined the team. Go ahead.
Silver.
Sure. I will admit I was sort of an adjacent observer of Nex, and I didn't know what he was up to until one day he just approached me. He's like, "Hey, so I hear you write," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he gave me the pitch for Whispering Memories, and I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can work with this. I think I can make something happen with this concept. And then we just kind of ran with it.
I love psychological thrillers. For this kind of game, visual novels in particular, the story is a very important part of it.
And then Lauren?
And for me, it was of all places on Reddit that I met Nex. I was just I was learning music composition and still am, but I was learning something that was really focused on cinema, and I wanted to apply what I was learning to games, which is my big passion. And in the Portuguese devs subreddit, I found Nex, and we started talking about the eventual project, and then it came to be.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've had some other devs I've spoken to say that they also used Reddit to find people to work with. I love Reddit. I am mostly passive on there, just creeping around. But my first post for the show was actually made on Reddit. And I also think that's how I met Nex. Also, yeah, did not know there was a specific Portuguese game development subreddit, but I guess I shouldn't be too surprised as there is a subreddit for everything. So, going into story and narrative, what inspired the story and the characters of Whispering Memories, and how did you refine the narrative to resonate with the players?
I can take the first half of that question and then I'll pass on to Silver. Because when Silver joined, I had already outlined the world and the characters of the story. So big shout out to him for being able to adapt at full speed on picking up my scrambled ideas. I'm just a big fan of complex plot twist works like Steins Gate or Black Mirror. So I wanted to give my contribute to the genre, and I think that the players are in for an unexpected ride. As far as the characters go, we just wanted different personalities for the players to interact with and get to know. Luna was especially fun to create, aside from Silver struggling to write her at first. But I think that in the end, we nailed it.
Yeah, I'm happy to expand on that a little bit as well. Resonating with players is something that's always been really important to me, story-wise. I've been into creating stories since I was a very small child, and it only became more of an obsession as I became older. And I definitely have a very, very special place in my heart for video games as an art form, and I had never really dipped my toe into it, despite having I dipped my hands into quite a few different mediums over the years, and narrative has always just stuck for me. And one of the ways that we focused on resonating with players is focusing on key emotional hooks to isolate those early in pre-production and make sure that ultimately the storyline would flow and genuinely engage with users. And after that, I mean, it was just a matter of my specialty is kind of psychological thriller stuff. So if you're a fan of that, then please look forward to it.
Yeah, and also I'll just look forward to stuff. I hope more people make psychological stuff because it's just funny.
Yeah, I love psychological stories. That whole feeling you get when you start to tie stuff together or sensing that things aren't completely as they appear. Narration in general, or like the story behind things, is important. Even if you don't read books and stuff, you watch movies, right? All of these things have stories driving them. But yeah, I am super excited to see more thrillers like this get made. How did you blend interactive storytelling with game mechanics to create an immersive experience? Because it can be hard with visual novels, right? Because you want to present the story, but you also want it to feel like a game.
Absolutely. And that was definitely a challenge. I would sometimes approach Nix and I would just be like, hey, so should we do like a puzzle here? And we've definitely grown in terms of how we talk about these design mechanics as it relates to Whispering Memories core narrative. And we've definitely adopted a design first methodology to where each mechanic sort of triggers based on different choices you make. And so maybe in one decision, you mechanically come across the ability to do something that allows you to do something else. And that will allow you to see something through natural decisions that maybe you wouldn't have seen before if you hadn't been so inquisitive. So the game does intend to reward that sort of thing, and it's also something that we use to reinforce the stakes, the emotional stakes involved in, generally speaking, just the mechanics and how they function within the narrative itself. And on top of that, we made sure that the story events and interactive elements create a cohesive, player-driven flow that remains at the core of our creative vision. And sometimes we've definitely had to take a step back and be like, okay, practically speaking, though, how can we make sure that this decision feels rewarding?
I know you said one of your inspirations was Steins Gate, which I haven't played, but have seen the anime, which I really liked. It would be cool if your story also got some sort of anime adaptation as well. We need more psychological anime. With visual novels, branching storylines and multiple endings based on the player's decision is typically the way this genre goes about making those decisions feel impactful. How do you go about handling that? Because it seems to add a whole other complexity versus what a regular linear story like an anime or a TV show would have to account for. Were there any specific challenges you encountered when trying to design the story for that?
100%.
I like to
I'm-
make his life hard, but it's fine.
You know, I've never written, I've written a lot of different things before. I've written theater scripts, I've written short stories, short novels, but in general, and of course, linear narratives that players could follow. I also do a lot of like tabletop stuff where I do scenarios for folks, I run narratives, but branching storylines was a different beast for me entirely. And I won't lie to you, I approached it in a bit of a haughty manner. I was a little cocky, you could say. And I did get humbled a few times where I would make a lot of progress. And then as I'm typing to next, I'd just be like, wait a minute. And then I'd go back like 2 pages and I'd find something that I was like, I laid out a thread here and it went nowhere. We're going back. And it's painful. It's painful, but it's an iterative process. So within that, there is also some, it's important to map out the branches so that there's clear and significant consequences. Players don't talk about it, but they want to be punished. I'll clarify.
Don't get us canceled, please.
An easy game is one that no one is that interested in. And yes, this is a visual novel, but in that way, it's like you say, the narrative just matters all the more. And so, the weight of consequence doesn't really fall to, okay, you die and you have to respawn. Really, it's more so in the fact that you're actively making these decisions and you don't know if there's any, there's no back button really. You can't just go back and redo it. So in a lot of ways, it made that sort of thing a bit of a challenge. However, we hold regular narrative sync ups, and that helps a lot. And the fact is that Nex and I work together really well. We have a great time brainstorming every time, and it's always super productive. And it helps that both of us have a very great vision for both the characters and the overall vision for the story. That being said, yeah, Luna did cause me some problems. I will admit, I didn't get it. I had to watch a little anime to figure out certain ways of talking that I wasn't used to writing. But after I watched a little Delicious in Dungeon, shout out, it all just fell into place, and I was like, oh, okay, this character's got a little spunk, got a little attitude. I dig that. I dig that a lot. So that definitely made it easier, but in general, we we have fun with it. We definitely make that the core focus. We don't want the game to feel like a drag, or no matter what choice people make, we want every decision to feel like it matters. And, you know, are there going to be multiple endings, you know, branching decisions? So probably, you know, so that's definitely something to look forward to. But as for how many branching stories, well,
It is.
I think you are right that the players like feeling punished. We like to see that the choices that we make while playing feel impactful, like our actions have consequences, whether good or bad. And you brought up an interesting point that the punishment in a visual novel isn't like a standard game where the player just dies and restarts. There's a bit more that goes into the punishment you find in this sort of game. Also, don't feel like you have to give 20 multiple endings. Even just 2 endings done right will be better than 50 forced ones. You seem like a really creative person in general, so just let your creativity flow naturally, and I'm certain you will create the best endings that there could be.
Thank
Also, I
you.
see your cat in the background. We love.
We
I
love
support
cats on the
anyone that
team
has
as
a
well.
cat.
They do be running around back there.
um,
So the game blends supernatural horror with personal drama. How do you balance these elements without overshadowing one another?
Oh, I like this question, mostly just because it is sort of where I come in.
yeah.
This is kind of my specialty, and I couldn't really tell you necessarily how or why it became that way. It's just a lot of my writing tends to focus on emotional depth and the why connection to the characters. You know, I want people. There's really an experience that defined this for me. I was running a one shot that had it was technically a couple of parts really for like a tabletop for some friends. And one of them started crying, and I was so shaken by that. I had never had a narrative draw tears from someone before. And I was like, wow, I can do that. You know, it was a wake-up call in a lot of ways. I learned not to underestimate myself after that, and I take that experience into this game by placing equal attention on emotional dialogue and interpersonal conflicts, and relating those sort of thematic elements into the supernatural elements that you kind of see. How I do that, I can't say. I mean, that's for the players to really learn. But what I can tell you is that the general pacing of these sequences, it's meant to preserve a dynamic atmosphere that ultimately avoids diluting either the eerie or the intimate moments that the player might have with each character. And this interplay lets each dimension of the narrative shine. You know, it's all of it comes together: art, music, story, and all meshes into a heightened sense of deepened player empathy for the central cast. And that's the primary methodology we're focusing with.
Right.
It is nice to see in games when multiple disciplines come together to create experience. And speaking of composer, music is another area in games that often gets overlooked or pushed to the back burner. But the right music in a game can truly elevate it to a whole other level. I know with indie games and indie developers, you don't always have the funds to bring on a composer or know someone who wants to jump on the project, and that's okay too. But yeah, I am interested to see what sort of atmosphere you all are able to create working together. Shifting to the art, I know we don't have the artist of your team in today, but I still wanted to bring it up since it's an important part of your game. Can you describe the vision and inspiration behind the visual art style of Whispering Memories?
Yeah, I can take on the art section. I mean, we do have an artist on the team. She goes by Pokoro Miu. She's been working with us since the beginning on the visual novel. And to address the question, as far as the visual style goes, I gave her zero instructions on what style we should aim for. I wanted her to draw to her heart's content with her raw art style, which in my opinion is very unique and appealing. And her character design is actually one of the biggest selling points on why I was drawn to her heart and why I knew she would nail doing assets for the visual novel. And she's also been doing the background pieces, which is 100% hand drawn, and it blends perfectly with the characters. And we're very proud of how the game looks. Yes, exactly that.
Were there moments where the visual style directly influenced your development choices?
I wouldn't say the visual style itself influenced, but me and Silver try to be respectful of her time and effort. So we try to aim for backgrounds that will be used across the board and not just once, for example. So that point definitely influences development choices when writing the script. And it's not exactly a pain point. That forces us to make smart decisions and allows for the players to create some sort of connection with places because it will never be something that you visit once and you never visit again.
Can you share an example of how a particular piece of artwork or design element captured the mood of a key scene and what it meant for the overall experience?
Yeah, I agree. That's my question to that is yes, all of them. All of them. I mean, as a visual novel, players will spend hours looking at the backgrounds and the characters that we design. So just like music, the art is very important to set the mood. I mean, for example, if you're inside a cozy coffee shop, your guard is down, right? But if you're in a playground in the middle of the night, then you might be wary of that something might happen. So every piece needs to set the mood for that scene. And we're very glad with what we achieved so far in that regard.
I do want to shift over to music. We already sort of touched on how the right music in a scene can really push that scene forward. How did you approach composing a score that captures the emotional tone and themes of the visual novel?
So this applies to most game music, but visual novels in particular. I think music has this difficult objective of setting the tone, but not distracting the players. So it's a really interesting balance and it's important to achieve it. And it goes through many stages. The first one is getting myself really familiar with the genre. So listening to lots of other visual novel soundtracks and playing visual novels and listening to all kinds of background music that is aimed at setting the mood. And the second thing that was really important was just talking to Nex and understanding his vision, understanding what the core or the soul of the game really is, and that really helps because some of the tracks I've made without the backgrounds or the characters being available for me to see. And so sometimes by understanding what we are doing, and not in the literal sense, but what the game is all about and what the vision is, it can really help in setting the tone. And I think those are the main aspects. But then there's a final one, which is checking it works with the game itself. So when we have the background, when we have the characters, I'll play the music over the visuals we already have, and we will check if it fits and make the necessary adjustments. So it's a really good, fun project to do.
I can see how that would be difficult having to try and balance, right? Like adding to the scene while not distracting the player. Can you share a moment when the music composition significantly influenced the game's atmosphere or narrative?
I think that the best example is the title theme. Although most of the time it's the other way. They kind of complement themselves. The game atmosphere influences what kind of music is written, but also the music will influence the game. It's really a process that goes side by side. But I think the most impressive one was the title theme that I wrote based on 3 words that Nex provided to me. So it was the first thing we did, and he told me, I want this to sound emotional, melancholic, and mysterious. And based on that, I wrote the title theme. And most of the visuals weren't done yet, and most of the story, I assume, wasn't written yet. And so I think by having that present while we were working on the rest, both for me working on the other tracks as for the rest of the team working on the rest of the on their parts, I think it really helped to set the mood in general. So yeah, the main title is special in that regard.
That's amazing you were able to create from just those descriptors, like translating it to another language almost. I think there are times as a player where I won't even realize the full impact the music has, but everything just feels right. Also, there are times where it's actually fitting for the music to take the forefront and really tell me what the mood is.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what's important to achieve, is to shine when it needs to shine and
Yeah.
take a step back when it needs to tone down. You know, it's exactly what I'm trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
I just I
that.
just I just want to say that Lorenzo was so deep into it that he was like, "Oh, this scene, is there something wrong with it? Right? Should I make like a single note out of place and see if players can figure it out?"
I'm
So
sure we'll
yeah,
be
we
able to
go
feel the passion.
I really hope so.
for sure.
I
I do want to switch over to some technical questions now. The game features an interactive dialogue system. How much do players' choices truly shape the story? And also, is there any sort of tool you use or created to help with managing and tracking the different branches that occur in the story?
Yeah, that's a great question. Silver already touched the branching side of the story a bit. So we do organize ourselves on Miro. We have a board on Miro. It's a great tool for all the teams out there that are looking into having everything on the same place. That's been great for us. So as far as branching goes, I mean, we're a small team and can design a huge and complex branch that ends in completely different points. However, we aim for the branching to impact three key things. How much knowledge the player gathers about the occurrences, in a sense that depending on your decisions, you'll know more or less about what's happening with the phenomena around you. You get to spend more time with certain characters than others based on your decisions, which is interesting because I saw some players playing the game, playing our demo, and they ended up liking one character more, and the character that they liked more was the character that they spent more time based on their own decisions that they weren't aware that they were making. So it was interesting. And last but not least, your decisions will impact the fate of the characters in the story. Think like just the Until Dawn game. In a sense that if you make the wrong decision, a character can be removed completely from the rest of the story. So
oh,
yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. You can't reach that point on the demo, so please don't try to kill our characters in the demo. You can,
Not yet.
but in the full game, we will have those decisions.
The game has a trophy and in-game gallery system. Can you tell us more about that and how it maybe encourages replayability?
Yes, we have trophies and a gallery to unlock as you progress the game, as it's common for visual novels. Players should be used to those systems by now. If some players feel satisfied with a single run and call it a day, that's perfectly fine. But for those players that really want to put in more hours and try different routes and outcomes, we wanted to have a way to really reward them. So we made sure to implement something nice in that regard. And we also have a music room in the game on the same section. It's a place where you can just kick back and listen to the soundtrack made by Lawrence Studio.
Oh,
That's really cool that you created a spot specifically for highlighting the music of the game. I am curious, what game engine did you develop in, and is there a particular reason you ended up choosing that one? Had you tried developing in any others?
why that?
Yeah, so I chose RenPy as a game engine for our game for two good reasons. The first one being RenPy is free to use with commercial games. There's no budget going into that regard, because as an indie team with limited resources, this only makes sense. Plus, there isn't one thing that I wanted to do in the engine and wasn't able to. It's a pretty versatile tool, and I'm happy with my decision. And second, RenPy has an amazing community behind it. Every time I had a doubt, I would always find a Reddit or a forums post talking about it, where someone had already helped, and that's amazing. It's an amazing community.
I love.
How do you strike a balance between your creative vision and the technical constraints faced during development?
I mean, being the one responsible for the creative vision and technical implementation does have its perks. I can just talk to myself. But I do have my, I do limit my creativity to align with the ceiling that I have on the technical side of things. So doing that pre-plan allows me to keep my scope on track and my feet on the ground, instead of aiming too high and then getting stuck along the way or overwhelmed. And I also try to be respectful of time and effort from the other members of the team, and make sure we're smart on our decisions to build something for the game. It has to make sense.
I can tell y'all are really respectful of the time and effort of the other team members. What was one of the most challenging technical hurdles in building Whispering Memories, and how did you solve it?
Yeah, technical hurdles, it has to be for sure the SMS exchange system. I can answer how we solved it because we haven't.
That's fair.
I mean, it's a system that I built from scratch, and our beta testers did their job very, very well and found multiple problems with it, which most of them I was able to tackle quickly, but it doesn't have all the features that I wanted to have yet, and I'll be working on improving it over time. I was able to have a base working, so players can experience XMS exchanges in the release demo, but we want it to be more, and we'll be working on it. That's the best example of a wall that I hit.
Yeah, it makes sense, since the game is still in development, that the hurdle is one that you are still working through. I am curious, can we expect an official OST release for Whispering Memories?
Well, absolutely. We haven't discussed much of the details yet, but there'll definitely be a release close to the game release date, or in the game release date. We'll see about it. But I think the interesting part when releasing the soundtrack by itself is not make it only about the game music, make it also an experience you can have in your daily life. So my goal will be to first bring Starvale to real life. So it'll be something you can experience, just like when you're in the game, you can also be listening to that music and having the feeling of the game ambience. But also, because visual novels are known for most of the music being background music to support the dialogue and whatever's happening in the story, it'll also be great music to have in the background when you're relaxing or studying or even sleeping. I don't know. So it'll be about doing both of those things.
That's great to hear, because I know I am one of those people who just loves having video game music in particular playing in the background while I'm studying or working. It seems like you guys are so deep into the lore of Whispering Memories that it feels like a novel could be next. Do you see that happening, or are you already gearing up for your next project?
You know, that's interesting. It's so fun you say that. So I have a little fun with how I respond to it slightly. So I will admit the universe we've built is it's definitely robust enough to extend into alternative formats. We have a wealth of untapped lore and character backstories that could translate really well into a written narrative. Even if it was a more linear one, I could definitely see that. At the same time, you know, our team, we thrive on innovation, and we could channel this creative energy into an upcoming interactive project. You know, you never know. You know, whether we branch into additional mediums or continue enhancing our current development is the priority is always going to be crafting immersive player-based experiences that resonate long after the final credits roll.
Whispering. I think that would be so. Because I
I'm
also love
writing on
psychological
Netflix.
anime.
I
I'm
would
waiting
love
on
that.
Netflix to call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Netflix, call them. Need more like psychological.
I'll give you the
Um,
details later.
But yeah, it just seems like when you have a lot of time, story similar to how it is like you know, maybe I could perhaps yeah. That.
When can we expect the full release of Whispering Memories? And are there any hints of any sequels on the horizon?
You're really digging for details, huh? Regarding the full release, I think I talked with Silver yesterday or the day before. We're still aiming for Q4 of this year, so the end of the year. I can't give a certain date right now. We still have a lot of work ahead of us. About a sequel, the way that we're planning to wrap up the story, I don't see an immediate need for a sequel. I mean, Silver would have to come up with something really crazy to make it work. But
I'm okay
I
with a
ending,
definite
but I'm
ending.
okay with
Sometimes
definite
it's nice to have a story fully just wrap up.
until like and not have that question.
yeah, I guess that in the end it depends on the success of this game and where the aspirations of the team members will be at the time.
That makes sense. Definitely.
What's one thing that you hope players take away from their experience playing your game?
At the end of the day, I really hope players enjoy the journey that we have been preparing with so much work and care. Maybe even taking away something for their everyday moments, like appreciating the small moments that we often overlook at the time, but end up meeting them later. So, little hint. But yeah, that's it for me. Silver.
You know, this is something I ask myself every time I write anything. What is the thing that I want to leave the reader with? And it depends on what I'm writing, but in this case, I am aiming to leave players with it's gonna sound a little dark, but hang with me.
That maniacal laugh.
You know, I would like to leave players with a little bit of a void, you know. When they finally complete the game, I want them to think, could I have gotten a different outcome if I had made different decisions? And the way that I intend to compel that, you know, is ultimately just making them care about the story and finding little pieces for them to connect to, and those pieces will ultimately join together to create a beautiful picture that they can look at over and over and just be like, oh, and they just hold that memory of playing the game, and it gives them satisfaction.
Yeah, that's. I know some of the
That's
best
so
like
cool.
stories leave you with a voice. Sad it's over. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, for my part, I think, and it's interesting because we've talked so much about the ambience, and the mystery and the story and what it'll leave you feeling. I think that's the biggest takeaway that we wish people have from the game is everything is contributing to that. The art will hint at that ambience, the writing, the music. So from my part, it's the music, and it'll hint at stuff, and it'll provide with the tone and ambient that you'll be feeling when you're playing the game. But all of our parts will combine to do that, and I think it's the big heart of this game. So I really wish people will feel that and enjoy it.
It really does feel like a with our powers combined moment. Like, I think it's great that, there's so much heart being put in, into all elements of the game.
I think that all of it coming together will result in something special, like a real feeling and moment.
I do have a fun question. Okay, if Evelyn, Luna, and Aiden were in a horror movie, who would survive? Let's say it's
They
a
are.
thrasher mixed with zombie horror movie. Did you want to maybe?
Silver
Anyone
is
have
itching.
It's almost too easy for me to answer this. I'll be honest with you.
You want Luna to get killed off, I bet, right?
No, she likes her now.
As much as I would, I mean, Aiden would probably be my best bet, honestly. I mean, Mans is a journalist, so he knows how to put a few things together. And I think Luna would do very well, but in the end, I think Aiden would take the cake.
What about you, Mac?
I think that we all agree that Evelyn will die first.
So Evelyn's definitely not a contender.
Yeah, no.
No, but differently from him, my money is on Luna. She's badass.
Okay. I guess Evelyn's the one who's like, I'm gonna go walking down this hallway alone. Guys, wait, or that sort of player character. What about you, Lorenzo?
I think it'll be the grandma.
I didn't know that was an option.
Boom.
Yeah, is she one of the ones that would just sit with like a shotgun, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Grandma's
With a
got your
plate of
back.
cookies.
Exactly. She'll give cookies to the zombies and run away.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's
Cool. Well, I really appreciate y'all being here and coming to talk about. I say it a lot. I just love
Hearing people talk about the stuff that they are passionate about.
me.
Oh, for us as well. We'd like to thank you for having us. It's been a blast. This is obviously a great opportunity for us to get out there, and we really do appreciate it.
I hope
Yeah,
people
fantastic.
hear how much.
And thanks for getting there, because it's really good when the person we're talking to is really interested and really knows what's going on in general. So I think you did that really well.
I love conflict. So yeah.
Keep coming.